songs of sorrow, songs of pain. From dark and secret places, songs of legend, songs of myth. Voice of ancient races, once were kin, once were kith. Cross the fields and the meadows, prairie lands of waving grain, through the fields and the hedgerows to sustain sad refrains, songs of sorrow, songs of pain, songs of sorrow, songs of pain. Consider the song of the cicada. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on, carries me like a surfboard to the far shore. Shimmer of sound. I can almost stand on. Carries me like a surfboard to the far shore. A legend from ancient Athens tells of Titanus, a young man who fell in love with the goddess Eos and wanted to spend eternity with her because she was immortal and he was not. He begged her for eternal life, and that she gave him. But he forgot to ask for eternal youth. And his body started to decay, but he wouldn't die. And so she took pity on him and turned him into a cicada. You asked me for eternal life, O Titanus, so we could spend our days in paradise. Eternal life, but not eternal youth, O Titanus. Your negligence comes at a pretty price. Your body like unripened fruit, O lover. Your mind unharvested reverts to seed. No more strength in loin and limb, O lover. I am clearly not the goddess that you need. You should always read the small print, O my poor boy. A goddess's gifts once given can't be returned. I'll turn you into an insect, oh my poor boy. Nothing is refunded if not earned. Harbinger of summer, O immortal, your song laments your woes in every breath, till drowsy harvest takes you, O immortal. Winter sleep, no substitute for death. Immortalized by poets, O Cicada, death beckons, death entices, death deceives. Exoskeleton drops from you, O Cicada, and crackles underfoot like autumn leaves. If, as the poet said, the moon is a ghost sun, then surely the sea is a ghost sky. A man is a ghost woman. The white pebbles on the shore are ghost clouds. A darting swallow, the ghost heart of a lover. And the summer sweet song of the cicada, a ghost poem. Oscillation, oscillation, oscillation. Lawn sprinklers, whispered conversations through open windows, the pylon hum of static electricity, panting dogs at the poolside, a car alarm in a distant street, ticker tape printouts of jagged lifelines, helicopter blades, motorboat rotors, ceiling fans, wind turbines, aircon, coffee grinders, chainsaws and power tools. A gas flame puttering out. Mariachi, marimba, maracas, rattlesnakes. Oscillation, 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 oscillaceration. They are watching us. They are watching us. Consider the song of the cicada, rhythmically elusive. Consider the song of the cicada, too heavy for the air that carries it. Consider how it parts the air before it, how it refracts and repatterns it. Consider the song of the cicada. Consider how he uses his internal muscles to contract his exoskeletal membrane. How he then relaxes these membranes, how each contraction and each relaxation produces a click. How he vibrates these membranes rapidly so that the clicks become a continuous sound. How he uses his abdomen to resonate the sound. How he uses his tracheal chambers to amplify the sound. Consider the song of the cicada. At a concert in the square, shaded by plane trees, we listened to the musicians chase the cicada song around the stage, trying to match that tympanic snap until they waited for the song to come down from the trees, prowling, sniffing, circling, and finally join them. When the oud player broke a string, I'm sure I saw a cicada alight on the neck of her instrument to sustain the note. They are watching us. They are watching us. They are listening to us. They are listening to us. Papillon de nuit, butterfly, moth. In France, the distinction is temporal rather than etymological. Those early morning night butterflies rotivate, puttering round my head. In my path, I find a drowsy cicada. I bend down to rescue him from tractor wheels, and I'm struck for a moment by his rusty underwings. A woman passing by misconstrues my hesitation. "Elle ne pique pas," she says. "They don't sting." And she scoops the creature up and into the grassy verge. She tells me how her brother used to push a stick into a cicada's anus, throw it into the air to watch it come helicoptering down. Whereas I, she says, know that if you turn a cicada over in your hand and gently stroke its stomach, it will sing for you. When she's gone, I lift the cicada from its roadside refuge and try to turn it over in my hand. It resists my efforts, clinging desperately to my fingers with all the genetic mistrust it can muster. "I'm not her brother," I tell it. "Neither are you mine," it replies. A dialogue. Persons of the dialogue: Socrates, his cicada, an ant. Scene: the kitchen in Socrates' house. Athens, 415 BC. You and I have lived in companionship for some time now, Cicada. I have provided you with shelter and nourishment, and you have lulled me into noonday sleep with your gentle chirrup. But I know nothing of you, whence you came, your ancestry. It is indeed the time to speak of this, O Master. I appear before you as a humble insect, but I am of a noble and ancient race that walked the earth as men before the gods sent forth the muses to bewitch us with their siren song. And from thenceforward we cared for nothing but that silvery music. Our days were spent in indolence, we neglected to eat or drink, we died without even realizing it. So your days are now spent in idle pleasure, unlike our fellow insect kind. I would like to know what places you above the entomological hoi polloi, above our friend Ant, for example. Here he is now. I would first hear from him.
Thank you, Socrates. I am but a humble insect like you. But unlike you, I spend my days in industrious husbandry. During the days when grain and fruit are in abundance, I gather and store so that during the lean months I can provide for myself. I recall that when you were hungry, Cicada, you had the temerity to ask me for some grains of food from my larder.
Yes, and I can recall your reply. You have sung for your pleasure all summer, sir. Now you can try singing for your supper during the winter.
Is this not a fair point, Cicada?
By Zeus, I'm weary of this oft-repeated calumny. I will agree that through the labours of our friend here, he is able to provide most excellently for himself. But where, pray, is your song?
As you well know, sir, I have no song. I have neither the means of production of song, nor the inclination, or indeed the time to do so.
But does not our society require both? The gatherers of grain, the makers of music? Can you not share the fruits of your labour with me as I share my song with you? Does not my song make your toil less heavy? Can we not look forward to a society in which each shall give according to his ability and each shall be given according to his need?
I am not sure that either of our realms is ready for that political discourse yet, Cicada. But I would say your argument is well put. Your distinction brings to mind our illustrious forebear, the poet Hesiod, who distinguished four classes of citizens: potter, builder, beggar, bard.
Well then, a beggar you are, Cicada. You speak of sharing your gifts, but allow me to question whether these are gifts that are wanted or useful.
I will respond to your point, Ant. But before I do so, allow me to ask you, the grains and the fruit you gather, did you plant and nurture them yourself?
A rhetorical question, Cicada, not worthy of this discourse. But look closely at me. Do you see hands, fingers, shoulders, knees? Of course not. As you are well aware, these crops were grown by men.
Well then, that puts you in a new category, that of thief. A beggar at least only takes from others that which is freely given. You are, if you forgive the pun, the antonym.
Your wordplay presages my next thread of inquiry, Cicada. Do you claim yourself a bard?
You may certainly call me that, O Master, and I would not contradict you. Although, as I understand it, such a term is not well regarded in this household.
Ah, you speak of those words my friend and mentor Plato has ascribed to me. That I spoke of poets as imitators, shallow and servile copiers of nature. You must always be cautious of these public figures who use the voices of others as a vehicle for their own opinions. If I may present a more nuanced version of my argument, I do make the distinction between poetry that is heroic, epic, and constructed and declaimed as his great oratory. And poetry that is not put to noble cause and rendered in the demotic I am. Of what use are these mimics, these iambers, these elegists, these rhapsodists? And as for you, Cicada, what manner of poet are you then?
My poetry is trivial, slight, entertaining. I make no lofty claims for it. But I would say that just as you admitted that a well-managed body politic has need of citizens of all distinctions, it also has need of poets of all distinctions, rhapsodists and rhetoricians. Our potters, builders and beggars need poets, as do our philosophers, mathematicians and educators, and as do in particular our legislators, whose discourse has become coarse, mean-spirited and self-serving.
An excellent final flourish, Cicada. I had, I admit, invited you into my kitchen in order to cook you and eat you for lunch. But, once again, your sharp wits have ensured an escape from the cooking pot. I shall grow hungry today at least, and tomorrow we shall discourse on algebra.
Through will-o'-the-wisp, crackle-lipped kisses, through hoar-frosted heart-sore for undefined times, through willowing, billowing, winter-sleep tears, through silver-slate bark on dew-dripping trees, through burgeoning, budding and soap-scudding skies, through unfallowed fields nodding in unison, through cricket and swift in darting profusion, through sun-dinted diamond night, drowsy dog days, through lilting, lamenting portents of change, through mustard and russet, plum drop and fig fall, through scuttle and rustle, through scampering dark, through sleet and mist and fleet-footed rain, through recycled scars, too dug deep to heal. Cicatrice, cicada, cigale, sauterelle. In my car, a missile through the open window struck my temple and bounded off into the passenger well. An errant cicada squatting there, blearily, dead-eyed, red-eyed, beetle-browed and balefully unblinking. A hunched-over homunculus in an unseasonable overcoat. I stopped the car. And I wondered about unscrewing his head from his body to take out and examine the ancestral layers within his squat matryoshka figure. Instead, I opened the passenger door and waited for him to spring out. Then there was the day I decided to flee the city. This infernal city with its Sturm und Drang, its whir and clang, its caterwauling cacophonies of klaxons, its screeching, its scratching, its grind and rasp, its how can a poet be expected to write amongst all this turbulence and tumult? I left on foot as dawn was breaking. The swoosh of motorway traffic receding behind me and mellowing into the whispering of trees, caressed by the soothing breezes, and then eliding into that silvery cicada sound. I eased myself into its bewitching embrace. I settled among the trees. I took out my notebook. I began to write. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on. Carries me. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on. A shimmer of sound I can almost stand on. A shimmer. Shut up! Will you, for God's sake, shut up! Every sickly summer evening it's the same. I sit at my desk, pen in hand, about to discharge myself. And then that shipwreck song carried in on the torrid and tumescent air draws me once again to the window, where I'm pinned like a fluttering insect. My neighbour over the way humming softly as she goes about her nighttime routines. Through open window, through layers of gauze and haze and steam, I glimpse her as she flits between kitchen and shower. I wipe away sticky breath as I wait for that moment when she stands beside her moonlit bed and sheds her bathrobe. That brief instant before she steps from her crumpled carapace and vanishes. It's a scene from a film we've seen countless times before. We're in a city centre cafe, glaring sun outside. Inside, it is cool and quiet. People drinking coffee, pastis, under the ceiling fans. Monsieur le patron, red-cheeked, white-aproned, black-moustachioed, pauses in the act of polishing wine glasses and raises his head. He flicks the tea towel over his shoulder and walks to the door, half opens it, and stands on the threshold, hand on the door handle, ear cocked to the square outside. One by one, we look up from our newspapers, our books, then stand up to gather behind him, peering out into the harsh and brutal light, and we listen. And we hear it, that unmistakable rhythmic crunch. The sound of approaching jackboots. Where had they been hiding all this time, in this treeless cityscape? These fifth columnists. The American magazine Popular Mechanics advises its readers to exercise caution when using power tools during the summer months, during the daylight hours, for fear that the calmly driven cicadas may mistake the noise for the mating call of other cicadas. And they shall darken the face of the earth, and they shall eat out of every tree which groweth for you, and out of every herb which groweth for you out of the land. And they shall eat too the vine, so the fruit of the vine shall perish, and shall produce no wine, in which your people will find easeful oblivion. And they shall eat too of the barley, so the grain of the grass shall perish, and there will be no whiskey or vodka either. And lo, your people may capture and kill these insects, but they shall be in such abundance your efforts shall be as naught. And even though your people shall in revenge batter them and deep fry them, each before the television set with a mango salsa dipping sauce, or mayonnaise, if that's their preference, these sacrifices and these burnt offerings shall not propitiate the gods, nor shall bring forgiveness for their sins. And they shall descend upon your towns and cities, upon your high streets and suburbs, and driven to madness with their own unfulfilled mating calls, they shall, in carnal frenzy, descend upon the wielders of lawnmower and of leaf blower, of edge trimmers and hedge trimmers in your suburban estates. And they shall fall upon your high street coffee houses, and upon the baristas therein, the grinders of Arabica, the foamers of milk. And they shall fill your out-of-town supermarkets, and swarm upon the humming freezer units, and consume all they shall find therein. And all your false gods, Nero and Costa, Wilco and Tesco, shall be powerless in their path. seems to be saying, but still not ready to go. A rolling death rattle between the in and the out of her breathing. Poised between two states, as I am poised between impatience and guilt. Her breath is syllabic now. The siren's call of the cicada can reach 120 decibels. Enough to make the human ear bleed, enough to make distant dogs howl in pain. The call of the cicada attracts predators. When a predator approaches, the cicada will ventriloquize its call to divert the predator to a neighbour. Cicadas disable their own hearing mechanism to prevent damage to themselves. I stand in my kitchen, steak knife in hand, tip touching the tympanic membrane, tentatively circling the cochlea. When the ambulance came, I didn't hear the siren. Will it never end? 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 Will Will it never end? 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 Will it never end?
Never end. Will it never end?
Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end?
Will it never end? Will it never end?
Will it never end?
Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end? Will it never end?
First leaf of autumn falling. It crackles